Thanks for watching the video. This is Pascal for EMP Reviews. This is a review of James Gunn's Superman. I will do a quick summary of the key events in the movie and then do a review, which will start at the time posted here. Off-screen, Superman stopped the country of Boravia from invading Jarhanpur, an act argued to be controversial around the world. As a consequence, the being Hammer of Boravia attacks and defeats Superman in Metropolis. Battered, he barely makes it back to the Fortress of Solitude and is healed. Then, Superman returns for another round. Kal-El is again defeated and the Hammer is revealed to be Ultraman, someone who works for Luthor and was assisted by his team with crucial battle data during his confrontations with Superman. Later, Luthor fails to convince the government to support his proposed plans to use his technologies to apprehend the Man of Steel. Lois Lane meets her romantic partner, Clark Kent, who allows her to interview him as Superman. He defends his action in preventing the invasion of Jarhanpur by Boravia against a barrage of facts and arguments presented by Lane. Lex finds and enters the Fortress of Solitude, his team of metahumans defeating the defense robots and Krypto. Soon after, one of these invaders, Angela Spica, infiltrates the facility's digital systems. Superman fights a giant monster in the middle of Metropolis, secretly released hours earlier by two of Lex's men. The Justice Gang join in the fray and kill the creature, much to Kal-El's dismay, who wanted a much less lethal solution for the creature. Immediately after, globally, Lex Luthor reveals what Spica uncovered at the fortress, the message from Superman's parents to their son, that is, the command to take over Earth, take steps to continue the Kryptonian race and destroy anyone who opposes you. Boravia's President Vasil Gurkos makes anti-Superman public statements and secretly meets with his co-conspirator, Lex Luthor. Superman returns to the Fortress of Solitude to find the damage and the last living moments of his last robot. He crashes into Lex's office demanding to know where Krypto is, as he was nowhere at the fortress. A fruitless conversation, but broadcast for everyone to see. Clark tells Lois that he never heard the apparent nihilistic portion of his parents' message, as it was damaged on his craft on the way to Earth. Spica had unscrambled this portion of the signal for Lex to eventually broadcast. Kal-El concluded that the commands instructed him to be a valiant person and beneficial to humanity. He turns himself in, at the least, in the hopes of being able to find Krypto. He is transported to a pocket universe, meeting Luthor and Metamorpho, who weaken Superman when he generates kryptonite. Boravia restarts its invasion while Lois investigates Luthor's true relationship with Gurkos, also attempting to determine any benefits of the war for Lex. Through his secret source, that is Luthor's close assistant Eve's Tessmacher, Jimmy tells Lois where Superman is kept. Lex gives Kal-El a tour of a facility he keeps in the dimension, a prison with a variety of his enemies, with Krypto, in addition to Metamorpho's infant child, Joseph, who he blackmails to do his bidding. The location also has an army of monkeys that disseminate social media false information against Superman. Luthor executes Malik Ali, the street vendor that assisted Superman during the second assault by the Hammer when Clark resists some interrogations. After Guy Gardner and Hawkgirl refused to help Lane when she approached the entire Justice Gang for assistance in finding Superman, Mr. Terrific and Lois find the doorway to the Pocket Universe after he reluctantly agrees to help. In tears over Lex's execution of the innocent Malik, and with the promise that Superman will save his son, Metamorpho disables his kryptonite crystals and does his best to produce the closest thing to sunlight, attempting to heal Superman from the negative effects of the stones. Joseph and Krypto are saved, but this rescue is interrupted by Lex's soldiers. After defeating them with the help of Metamorpho and avoiding falling into a black hole active in the Pocket Universe, Superman and the rest are guided out of the dimension by the help of Mr. Terrific through Lex's unstable doorway, which collapses once everyone gets through. Using Mr. Terrific's aircraft, Lois takes the recovering Superman to his human parents, Jonathan and Martha. Lex explodes in anger when discovering the escape, his reactions including some insults to Tessmacher. Angered, she texts Jimmy what he expected to be damaging information about Luthor, but is only a series of photos of her, and she is also caught by Luthor in the process. Lex creates a dimensional tear intentionally aimed at Metropolis in order to draw Superman out. Clark describes to Jonathan how disturbed he feels about the true nature of the message and commands given to him by his Kryptonian parents. Kent tapers his concerns, focusing on who Superman has chosen to be as opposed to whatever evils he is expected to achieve on Earth. Jarhanpur communities are calling for Superman as Boravian forces are approaching them. Mr. Terrific stops Clark's intentions to travel through that conflict with facts about the impending danger of the dimensional rift. Hidden in the photographs of Tessmacher is evidence that Lex's benefits to the Boravian War is for him to seize half of Jarhanpur for its wealth of natural sources and other greed-based opportunities, facts Jimmy and Lois present to Perry White, as well as Luthor's numerous efforts to damage Superman's reputation. The tear begins to ravage Metropolis and Superman appears, saving someone's life upon arrival, and then being attacked by Speaker and Ultraman when discussing the catastrophe with Mr. Terrific. The entire battle is closely monitored by Lex and his team. Terrific is knocked out, and during the fight with Superman, Speaker manages to infiltrate Superman's body on a cellular level with her liquid machinery. With Kal-El preoccupied, Boravia proceeds with its invasion. Superman flies to the upper atmosphere with Speaker and Ultraman holding on to him and continuing their attacks, to then purposefully crash back down to Earth. Ultraman, damaged by the rough landing, removes his mask to reveal he is a Dead Ringer clone of Superman manufactured by Luthor. This copy is so accurate that earlier, it, Lex, and the rest of his team were allowed inside the Fortress of Solitude by its DNA screening barriers. The duplicate attacks Superman, coached by Lex's team with fighting strategies. Guy Gardner and Metamorpho attacks Boravian forces, having been summoned off-screen by Superman. Meanwhile, Hawkgirl kills Gurkos. Communicating through a device on the clone, Luthor reveals to Clark that the only reason he created the Boravian incident is to have an excuse to destroy him. It is unacceptable that the Man of Steel is evidence of how much humanity is actually a weak race. Summoned by Superman, Krypto interrupts Ultraman's beatings and destroys Luthor's devices that have been monitoring the fight, which provided his team the ability to assist the clone. Kal-El defeats Luthor's soldiers and sends the super clone inside the black hole on the other side of the rift. Superman stops Luthor and his team's attempt to vacate the area. Clark illuminates Lex on the human aspects he possesses and defends his right to exist. Mr. Terrific contains the rift using the team's computers, the devices Luthor used to initiate it. Through Jimmy and Perry White, the Daily Planet releases all the information about Lex's relationship with Boravia, facts that destroy his reputation and vindicate Superman. Supergirl makes an entrance, meeting Superman at the Fortress of Solitude with a fully repaired set of robots. Krypto is apparently her dog, who she leaves with. To have the first image of Superman be a bloody man, who not only gets jostled by an uncontrollable superpowered dog as well as being fried as a method of healing, is a mistake. Any injury Kal-El should suffer should be when the plot first established Clark Kent, his daily life as a reporter, and then the action should be introduced, especially anything involving wounds. The fact that another beating occurs immediately after this opening does not help this overall story, and diminishes what Superman should be, which is a lot more powerful than what the story presents in its opening act. The fact that the Fortress of Solitude is now hidden beneath the surface as its normal state is a noteworthy difference from all the previous on-screen versions of the facility, especially with its ability to rotate. I am completely repelled with the argument that Lois and Kent have about his actions against Boravia. In effect, we are not even finished with the first act of the film and Superman is essentially attacked 3 times, this time in a debate that he does not navigate through successfully. His lack of composure when he explodes at one point reminded me of Batman needlessly punching the glass when he argued with the imprisoned Riddler in the 2022 film. This is not the way you should present Kal-El, emotional, somewhat unhinged, and not in control during an intense conversation. Lastly, Clark and Lois should never be portrayed as some sort of imbalanced couple that you would see in a soap opera or any forms of drama that was tried and failed in Superman Returns. Again, Superman is portrayed as someone unhinged when he practically challenges Guy Gardner to fight and when he crashes into Lex Luthor's office. I hate the unstable personality this film presents. Another aspect of this film that I hated was the fact that the Man of Steel, in my eyes and especially with what I'm familiar with the character's personality in previous iterations, is not portrayed as a leader, nor someone that is respected nor revered. When the Justice Gang arrive to fight the kaiju, not only is the tone of the film switched awkwardly to be comedic, but Superman seems to be someone unimportant, especially when Mr. Terrific is bothered when Kal-El suggested a non-lethal solution for the creature. The quickness in which the population turned against Superman is ridiculous. At best, it should have been a global ongoing debate, is split with people continuing to support him while others are offended at what they believe are his evil intentions towards humanity. The fact that Superman is portrayed as someone who just sits by and does nothing while Metropolis is attacked, in a depressed state no less, is very destructive to the character on a fundamental level, even if the problem of an invading dimensional imp is apparently easily handled by the Justice Gang, as Clark describes to Lois. Scenes like this really made me feel like James Gunn does not understand the character. The Marvels was certainly a catastrophic film, and the scene that cemented my decision to never watch it again was the Singing Planet. The inaction from Superman in this part of the story almost makes me feel the same. It occurred to me that this is truly a James Gunn film, and with Superman, this is not a compliment. Here, the director is unable or refused to focus on one character when he wrote this story. His comfortable style is to have several protagonists and villains. He needs personalities that insult one another, and he needs dialogue along the lines of what Joss Whedon is known for and was better skilled at, in my opinion, banter that worked exceptionally well in the first Avengers film. I would give Gunn praise for the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie, as I feel the two sequels are not good movies, but I don't believe at all that he was the sole reason for that film's brilliance. Perhaps a nitpick, but considering the surprising often lack of quality of special effects in modern day entertainment, the alien driving the floating platform in the pocket dimension, as well as Metamorpho's child, were not convincing at all. There are more evidence that for some reason, modern day effects are not only worse than they were a decade ago, but producers look at the rendered art and actually approve what they see. This is not the case for every product released, but it is happening at a surprising rate considering the available technology and skyrocketing costs of film, TV, and streaming shows. I am glad to say, however, that there are times that salvage the mess that is this movie. Especially when Superman tells Lois that fundamentally, he acted on the conclusion that the damaged, incomprehensible parts of the message advised him to be a gallant being towards humanity. The scene where Jonathan Kent focuses on Clark's actions, that is, the choices he has made as a person based on what he thought the full message communicated, is very powerful and the best part of the film, in my opinion. I mentioned in a previous video the catastrophic attempt at an emotional dialogue in Black Widow as evidence of how bad Marvel is today, but like the emotional discussions between Potts and Stark in the first Iron Man movie, Jonathan and Clark have an effective, encouraging dialogue here. This is a stretch, but ironically this movie could have fit in the Black Adam's films universe, an alternate one I propose, as the tone is practically the same, with misplaced comedy at times mixed with occasional very bleak scenes. It's got heroes that general audiences aren't familiar with one of these characters that essentially steals the show. Here we got Mr. Terrific engaging in some pretty impressive action, like the assault on that government team with his unusual powers, while in Black Adam we had the mystical powers of Dr. Fate. And Mr. Terrific saves Metropolis in the final act, which essentially makes him more important than Superman. But like Black Adam and a lot of recent phases of Marvel, there is too much comedy in here, such as the scene in which the man and woman were arguing in the Pocket Universe prison cells on either side of Superman, while Metamorpho was trying to create sunlight, and Krypto licking Joseph instead of helping Superman save that child and help him avoid being sucked into the black hole. Krypto is way out of control. His antics are damaging to the plot. He is a constant thorn at your side reminder that Superman cannot be in full command of his presence in this film. Nicholas Hoult is probably my favorite actor in the entire ensemble. His performance is very frantic, and though I think the narrative of the invasion of a nation as a route to discredit and destroy Superman is a bit lacking, Hoult is completely convincing with his presentation, especially when he aggressively dismisses his assistant's warnings about the dangers of creating the rift in Metropolis. I don't think this is a nitpick, but there's no way in hell Spica could have survived in the upper atmosphere, least of all to verbally communicate clearly with Lex's headquarters during that oxygen-deprived trip, as Ultraman was the only one in a suit. They absolutely should have concluded the movie right at the Superman and Lois kiss. If not simply there, then keep the scene showing Superman being taken care of by his loyal robots, but also have him deciphering the true message from his parents, a peaceful and beneficial relationships with humans, demonstrating that the supposed Spica translation was nothing than more Lex Luthor deception. The Supergirl intro is just unnecessary, makes her look like an idiot, and essentially screams of DC's answer to She-Hulk, a drunken idiot that we are somehow supposed to like. Superman should have been the one to disable the rift. It pisses me off that he is not the central savior of Metropolis. The plot should have had Kal-El operate Lex's device in order to disable that chasm, and if necessary doing so while simultaneously delivering his, albeit rather awkward speech about being human to Luthor. This primarily is the reason why this movie can't come close to Richard Donner's Superman from 1978. Something else that is certainly almost as egregious is the message from Kal-El's parents. That is a ridiculous change from the lore. This is as bad as the crazy changes the writers did for Dune Part 2. In Man of Steel, at the first meeting between Kal-El and Zod, the General describes that Jor-El sent his son to Earth with the Codex, knowing that doing so meant the end of humanity. But in the final act, the simulated Jor-El tells Zod that humans and Kryptonians actually can live together, this being a well-constructed plot point that demonstrates the integrity of Superman's father. Here, we have Jor-El and Lara commanding their superpowered son to rule the world, destroying anyone who stands against that plan. Absolute garbage. My rating for this movie, which certainly encompasses the fact that I will never watch it again, is a 1 out of 10. Thank you so much for watching the video. I hope to see you in my upcoming review of Fantastic Four.